Yo, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Toby D, and you are hanging out with Now Called Pound for Pound. Yes, hitting you with NFL news and talking about them Atlanta Falcons, dropping them F-bombs on you, if you will. But usually when it's solo dolo, me, myself, of course, and it's not JR hanging out with me, it is all Falcons talk right here on out. But you know, when me and him come together, it will be some other NFL news to our liking around the NFL, and still finishing the show off with most talk, 80% of the Atlanta Falcons, our favorite team. But today I want to talk about something that's been on my mind. One of the things. This is not even all of it. So be on the lookout for many other things that's on my mind as well as we get underway going into the mandatory OTAs and dropping it down in the camp. Run defense, run defense, run defense, and more run defense. Guys, I'm looking for this year to be one of the greatest run defensive teams that we've seen in the NFL. Okay, I may be overly exaggerating it a little bit, but I want to see this team get better at run defense, and I believe they will. Now, there's a couple of things that probably hurt certain teams from being able to become those stout teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the day, teams like the Chicago Bears back in the day against the run in today's time because the changing in the practice rules. Now, the NFL became a lot more loose on practices and how they want practices orchestrated, especially when they signed the new collective bargaining agreement in 2011. And players agreed to it. Players, especially who want longer careers and feel that those loose arrangements in practices can help them have longer careers, although that in my mind could be debated. Because it seems like since those rules have been lifted a little bit in practicing things like that, more big-time players have gone down. I would be very interested to hear a statistic on that from Rich McKay, one of our guys, of course, and one of the lead men in the rules committee staff, on how that is. You know, they've given other statistical analysis on all kind of other stuff like field goals and some of these new rules they got with the overtime rules now going from 15 minutes to 10 minutes. A lot of people are upset by that, by the way, players and probably coaches, and have voiced such. But we'll see how that rules goes down. Now, I am enjoying one thing, although Mr. Marvin Lewis from the Cincinnati Bengals has basically rejected the whole concept of celebration after touchdowns. But I'm excited to at least see how long this is going to last. Most people don't think it's going to last longer than a couple of seasons because, you know, like most things, somebody takes it all out of whack and now it is shut down once again. But I said we weren't going to talk about other teams around the NFL, and look, I'm finding myself naturally doing it. So let's get back to the Falcons, the run defense. I went and did some things and a little researching last night. And shout out to my wife, by the way, Jaquel, man. I got a wonderful wife who allows her husband to basically spend so much time looking at Falcon stuff from the time I get home from work, leading all the way up into Saturday and Sunday, especially starting on Friday nights. Now, don't get it twisted. She will let me know when she wants some time with her husband. And she is also a Falcons fan. So I guess that makes it a lot more easier than most that don't have a wife or a husband that likes the same team or loves the same team for that matter as they do. But I sat back and I don't know how accurate I'm going to be in this, but I'm going to try to get as close as I can, and you can go check it out for yourself. I went as far back as 1998 when the Falcons had that team to make their first Super Bowl run and make it to the Super Bowl in 99 for the 98 season against the Broncos, where we basically got whipped. But that's beside the story. But I'm looking at the run defense. Guys, they had a pretty stout run defense. They weren't even giving up 4 yards average a carry. And in my mind, that is pretty good. Now, I can't remember how many yards per game. I'm pretty sure it was under 100. But that is pretty good. But as I'm looking through there from 98 on to right now in 2016, we've been very inconsistent as a run defensive team. Now, I understand due to size and, things changing in the NFL, you want more speed. So you sacrifice beef for size to get that speed. And in return, teams run the ball down your throat or attempt to try to because of your small size, trying to account for the passing game that has now taken on a whole new mantra of its own. And it is what's basically expected of the NFL in today's time. So you don't have a lot of teams today in practices that are focusing a lot on 9 and 7 drills like they used to back in the day, because you had a lot more heavier running. Now, earlier on, you had more beef up front, too, to account for teams that like to try to run the ball down your throat. But with so much emphasis being put on the aerial attack, so to speak, teams have been trying to find a balance there between big and small to get both the speed and the beef, the power, if you will, to be able to play against both, especially with the play action. It's a lot of play action, believe it or not, going on in the NFL. And the Falcons, I'm sure, were one of the top teams, the best teams at play action, led by Matt Ryan in the NFL. So this time around, when you have a team like ours, now I believe has that balance. Since Mike Smith, I believe 2011 was the best we've been against the run in a long time. Okay, now we gave up, I think, an average of 4.2 yards, which is a little bit over the 4.1 yards per carry league average, I believe it is, that I saw on Stats LLC through a site that my man Pat Curran has. Speaking about football and things like that, man, you should check him out, by the way, too, man. He also has a book out, Take Your Eye Off the Ball, and, man, that is a great book and audio CD set, and he has DVDs that come with it if you really want to get deeper into learning a little bit more about personnel groups and just the game of football, period. It's a lot to learn, so you're not going to pick it all up in one day, man, but check that book out. Some of you may have already checked it out, man, but it's a great book, and it's definitely a book I would suggest that you read. I did, and, man, it opened my mind up about the game of football and my eyes a lot more than what I knew in years past. But like I said, man, run defenses now, they don't overly emphasize stopping the run as much, simply because they're more focused on the passing game. Those 7 and 7 drills that you see run in OTAs and in training camp, leading all the way up into the preseason and such things to prepare against the pass. So a lot of stuff that they do when it comes to the run defense is done in the classrooms and some simulation to try to stay within the practice leniency, if you will, implemented by the NFL to try to help prolong their stars and to be able to make all the money they want to make by the more stars that they can get on the field during game day. Okay, it makes sense. You want to see your stars on the field, Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman, and such nature, then you want to have rules that allow them to be able to hopefully do that. But, it seems lately there's been a lot of big-time players going down. I'm just saying. But you don't really have the opportunity to really hone in on stopping the run because it is a mentality. And now it's even more of a mentality with you only being able to mentally see things in the classrooms about your gap responsibilities, basically drawing from memory, of course, and simulating it in the practices because you're heavily thinking about the pass game. And I'm hoping that is an area where new defensive line coach can help his guys be able to better mentally comprehend. They understand about gaps. They've been playing football for quite a long time. Okay, they understand about gap responsibilities, but when you don't emphasize it as much, practicing it as much in 9-on-7 drills, then your mind mentally, although you know it, with the speed of the game, you're not really thinking about it. And the next thing you know, you're giving up 5 yards a pop and over 100 yards in that game. Now, when Paul Soliai was here, maybe a lot of people don't believe that Paul Soliai was really an effective guy, but I beg to differ. We were starting to have a pretty decent run defense. Now, albeit it wasn't a top 10, it started out that way. Now, it did start out that way all up until the magical day of Mr. AP came in and basically tore us to shreds, and then our run defense just went down the drain from that point on. But up until that point, guys, we were top 10 in stopping the run. And we weren't giving up more than 4 yards on average per carry, which is slightly under 4.1 in the league average allowed to a running back. And this year, I believe we can get better because we got guys that can stop the run. Now, I know I asked the question about Brooks Reed. Was he still going to be a Falcon this year? Or maybe he's gone in 2018 so that Tack McKinley can fully take over being that man in that role. But here's a guy that is stout against the run. And you got guys that we brought on like Jack Crawford from the Dallas Cowboys, 6'5", 295. Dude looks scary too, by the way. And this is just from the pics that I've seen. And you got guys like Rashid Hegman, a guy that I'm very interested in seeing if Bryant Young could get something out of this guy. I still believe this guy has potential to be good. Now, a knock on him coming out of college was that he didn't have a huge work ethic. And work ethic, it can't be taught. It's either something you got to have or you don't have, period. And he didn't have a lot of that coming out, okay? So that was a knock on him. But I still believe that this guy has something to bring to the table, and this year we will find out. We will find out if he's able to bring something and if Dan Quinn is going to keep him after this season is over. So that will definitely be something to keep an eye on to see where his progress is and if Bryant Young brings him up at any point during training camp and going into the preseason. But we have guys now where you can play big on big if need be and small on small and a balance of big and small out there. Well, what you don't want is what we had in 2016. You got an 8-man box. Okay, and I saw on Pro Football Focus, which I'm not too much of a fan of. I like some of the things that Pro Football Focus brings to the table, but there's some metrics and all of that and analytics on how they rate players by a little point system that they have. I don't want to say little because I don't want to disrespect Pro Football Focus because they've earned such a huge respect and reputation among the NFL. So, but I don't look at everything they particularly do, but they put out a stats about Keanu Neal, who played at the line of scrimmage probably, if not more than any other safety at his position in the league. And you're still giving up 4.5 yards per carry. That's not good. Now, although They were still in basically 17th ranking. I think because, they gave up 105 yards on average per game. Now, I believe they gave up just a little less than that in 2015. But the difference was the 4.5 yards per carry, and that is not what you want to do, because what that means to me is that you are allowing runs to leak into the second phase of your defense, and that's your linebackers. And you definitely do not want that when you have undersized linebackers. You want those linebackers to be able to roam free, not allow offensive linemen, specifically guards, to get out on them, to move them out of the way so that the ball carrier can get the yards and hopefully get into the third part of your defense, which is your secondary. This year, I want to see the Falcons to be able to hang around at least that 4.0 yards per carry measuring stick. And if they can get a little under that, maybe 3.7, that means that your defensive front guys are not allowing their linebackers to be washed out of the game, let alone letting the guards get up on them and move them so that their running backs can get going. I really look for this team to clog up that middle, forcing guys that don't typically like to run to the outside so that their linebackers can really show their strength from sideline to sideline. And we definitely have the guys to be able to do that. And I know that that is a plan of Dan Quinn, to force guys on the outside so that the speed of our linebackers can be on display. And I'm excited with the linebacking group that we have. I believe that we're going to be able to slow down that screen game that most teams are going to try to run on us because of our aggressive nature up front. And when you brought guys back like Kamal Ishmael, who has now been converted fully to a linebacker, and we will probably be seeing a good share of dime defense. Now, I heard Wagner, I believe it was him, who spoke against the dime defense because he can't stand when the linebackers are off the field. You got only one linebacker out there, and you got 6 DBs out there, and he hates that. But Dan Quinn does like to run some dime defense. And I'm going to tell y'all something that you may want to check out. I don't know if you ever really paid it much attention. Now, I don't play a lot of fantasy football, which this magazine is a great electronic version that they have, Football Outsiders, that is. And you can get the hardcover book if you want to, which costs a little bit more. I usually stick with the electronic version, but it's called the Football Outsiders Almanac. And I think right now I have all of them so far, and I will be definitely excited, looking forward to getting the next one that will cover from the things that went on statistically and other stuff that went on in the 2016 season. It doesn't usually come out to like late July, beginning of August somewhere. They are a little bit slow about getting it done, but it's so much information in there, and it takes a longer time to be able to do it. But it's a great almanac to get, man, if you want to look at statistical analysis and tendencies of teams, especially when it comes to seeing what your team did, what type of defenses they use, and how much of it they use, and same thing in offensive personnel. It's great. Pick it up when you get a chance, and it's great, man. That's all I can say about it. But the run defense is something that I believe that we are going to get better at. And I think if we're going to be a team that wants to minimize the amount of yards allowed, that is a place where we're going to have to shave off about 20 to 25 yards on average. Now, look, I'll take it if we can get to at least 90 yards. Allowing 90 yards on average per game. Now, that's 15 yards less than what we gave up in 2016, which to me is a huge improvement. And if we can get around that 4.0 yards per carry on average, man, that says a lot about this defense and what we're able to do, especially if the big guys up front are able to cover up the linebackers enough to keep them untouched, to be able to make a lot of plays, especially behind the line of scrimmage. That would be great. Now, I believe Vic Beasley, who showed flashes of a run defender last season, is going to get better at stopping the run. It looks like he added on a little bit more weight, and he looks really great right now. As well as rookie Tack McKinley, who seems like a guy who's going to be able to come in with the ability to play both the run and the pass. And I just feel like this defense is going to improve, especially being able to get a handle on the play action pass. And since you're going up against that a lot against our offense, I expect this defense to be good at getting a handle on that and to be able to corral more of those screen plays that offenses try to run on us to slow us down, which is something that I think Kamal Ishmael is going to excel big time at, especially in those dime defensive packages that Marquand Manuel and Dan Quinn will be running out there. And like I said, man, the linebacker group is looking to be very special to me with the additions of Duke Riley coming on board. And it's going to be interesting to see what undrafted rookie Jermaine Grace does. Now, you know he's going to have to excel in special teams, and we're going to see how he does in that, because if you want to make this team, Dan Quinn has already mentioned it and emphasized it a lot, especially starting rookie count at rookie OTAs, that you better get to know Keith Armstrong very well. As Duke Riley has already said, he's done. Because you want to make this team, that is how you're going to do it. But I'm not going to keep going about it. I just wanted to share that. Let me know what you think. Do you feel this run defense has improved, at least on paper? And do you think we're going to be better than we've ever been, or at least somewhere to where we can show some dominance and fear to teams that like to run the football? And guys, you know some of them guys we're going to have to face, Jordan Howard and Jay Ajayi, just to name two of them. And you see what New Orleans did. You see what Tampa Bay did and Panthers did. They want to run that ball, and they want to throw it as well. They want to have that two-man threat like what we have. We might end up with a three-headed monster, and if we see what Brian Hill is going to bring to the table, because Tyron Ward can't really play special teams like that. He's probably not going to be here and get beat out by Brian Hill anyway, who has already shown a hunger to play on special teams. And Keith Armstrong has already mentioned how he loves it and how he reminds him of the hunger that Akeem Dent had when we drafted him in the 3rd round. So with that being said, please subscribe, like, continue to share, especially continue to comment. I will try to answer and converse with as many of you as I can. And the last thing I want to say is thank you, and thank you for those who helped me and Mr. JR, Pound for Pound, formerly known as Faith Football Fans, reach over 500 subscribers. Continue to drive the views up, and up. Now, that's all for me. This is Toby D, Pound for Pound. I'm out.